Hiya and welcome to this week's episode of Inside Property Development. Now, if you're on YouTube, I'm going to show a couple of little charts and things. If you are listening on some sort of audio device, I'm going to try to explain what I'm showing. So I know different people like getting their podcasts in different ways. So if you're not on YouTube, then it might not be quite as easy to understand. So I'll do my best to explain it. Anyway, so what is it? What am I on about? Well, when it comes to land planning and property development, and particularly being a developer, the name of the game really is, getting deals done, finding them, getting them to stack up, and then, trading sites if that's what we're looking to do after having added planning value, or keeping them after having added planning value and building them out. Yeah. So, and that really is not an easy thing to do. So, and as a result, it's one of the reasons we've got so few SME developers left anymore. I've personally got a little bit of a mission about trying to help rebuild the industry of smaller, good property developers. And one of the things that sort of started that off was just over 10 years ago now, in 2013. I was getting increasingly annoyed, really, I suppose, with the amount of bad development that I was seeing. And of course, bad development's not good for anyone, right? Particularly developers, because it actually gets us all a bad name. So, there's in lots of circles, I don't even tell people I'm a property developer because I'm a bit embarrassed, because I know what they think. Yeah, the worst type of archetypal greedy property developer, not caring about what they do, building shit. And, sadly, we sometimes get lumped in the same boat as those type of people, right? So I thought, well, look, I don't like that. I don't like crap development. I don't like looking at crap development. I don't want my kids growing up in a world of crap development. So, what can I do to help change that? So I decided to start a training business called Millbank Land Academy to basically help train and support developers, both new and established ones, do things properly. Now, interestingly, and I mean that sort of came about in a whole weird, convoluted way. Actually, I started doing it by accident, just helping people out, and then it sort of evolved into a business. But when I started doing it or planning to do it on a serious scale, just over 10 years ago now, I started to realise that I'd got to the stage where I just knew what to do, after a lot of experience and a lot of mistakes and a lot of doing things the wrong way and therefore learning the hard way. I'd eventually got to the stage where I pretty much knew how to do things the optimal way, and I just did it naturally. But of course, when it came to teaching it and training it, I had to sort of reverse engineer it and systemize it. So that's what I did, and that's what I'm going to explain here now. Really, the main issues we need to overcome and deal with as developers, whether you are just starting out or you're the biggest developer in the country, these issues are all the same, or so I have come to learn. So anyway, as part of my sort of research phase of putting a sort of framework or system together for people, I went out and asked a whole load of people in the industry what were their biggest challenges. And this is what they said, right? So the sort of key problems or questions they asked themselves were, number one, how do they find the best opportunities, sites, buildings with development potential with minimal competition? Now, the reason that's so important is because this is a difficult enough, risky business anyway, without getting sucked into situations where you get pushed into bid up the value of land, so you're paying a lot of money for it before you've even started. Yeah, so that's super risky, super dangerous. If you want to de-risk things and be sensible, you really need to learn how to find the best opportunities with minimal competition. absolutely number one, right? Now, once people have found those potential opportunities, the next thing they need to know how to do is to quickly assess them, work out what is the potential without wasting a whole load of time and money. Because, as you would have gathered from earlier episodes of Inside Property Development, or you will know yourself if you're actually in the business doing this for yourself, properly assessing the site and taking it through planning, can be really slow and expensive, particularly when you don't know exactly what you're doing. So what you can't afford to be doing is spending, fortunes and days and days and days trying to assess the potential of a site, only to eventually find out that actually, blimey, this doesn't work, it doesn't stack or whatever. So quickly assessing the potential without wasting a whole load of time and money is the next really important thing we all need to learn how to do. After we've done that and we've established that something looks like it could or should be a deal, we then need to know how to negotiate and secure those opportunities on the very best terms. Now, in my opinion, the best way to secure deals is on option agreements. I've talked about that in a previous episode. Go and have a little look at what I say there if you haven't seen it already. That is absolutely, in my opinion, the best way to secure deals, option agreements, and ideally £1 option agreements. But before you go to the effort of actually negotiating and securing a deal, you need to get your numbers right. And basically know that it's a deal worth negotiating and securing. And in order to do that, basically, you have to arrive at the optimal scheme design that's going to maximise both the land value and profitability. So that is really the number one skill. So if I just put up another little chart here, I'm going to describe it for people that are listening. So if you think about it, so basically this is like a pie, yeah? So everything has got an existing use value. Every land, every site, every building, it's worth what it's worth at the moment. Now, if it's a field, an agricultural field, the existing use value without planning is going to be low. Let's call it £10,000 an acre, right? It's a slightly different scenario, slightly different story. Most of the time, what we're going to be looking at is brownfield or previously developed land. That's certainly the way planning tries to push things. So let's just say it's an old commercial building. It's a factory on a big chunk of land or whatever, right? So it's going to have a value as it is. So the existing use value is really your starting point. It's your barrier. It's your bar. It's the thing that you've got to beat in order to incentivise a landowner to sell. And of course, it's not just the existing use value. They're typically going to want a premium over and above the existing use value in order to make it worth their while selling and doing a deal. So you've got your existing use value plus a slight premium, and now that premium is a negotiation at the end of the day. That is basically your bottom line, the bar, the thing that you've got to beat. So you've got to come up with a scheme, a design, an amount of space, a mix of space, certain values, certain development costs, etc. In order to effectively maximise the land value. So the name of the game is and that's why I talk a lot about maximising land values, because it's like the bigger overall value pie you create, right, the better. So you've got your land value pie, let's call it. Now deduct or take a slice away from that pie, which is your existing use value plus a premium. The bit left over is effectively the usually planning value uplift. Yeah, so the amount of additional value that you can create through optimum planning and design, and how that additional value gets divvied up between you and the landowner. So it's basically the developer's profit and the landowner's uplift is effectively a negotiation. So the real skill in development, the number one skill, is actually making the pie as big as possible, because that way there's the maximum amount to be shared around. How it gets shared about is a negotiation, but you know, the bigger the pie, the more likely you're going to be able to come up with an amount that everyone is happy with. So that's the key bit in the middle, really. Absolutely key, really, is coming up with the optimum scheme design. Now, closely linked to that, and in fact it's part of the same thing really, is knowing how to negotiate and win the very best plan permission in the minimum time. Because, you know, a scheme that looks high value and you know, it is going to be good enough to persuade the landowner to sell, well, if it's not actually going to get planning, it's irrelevant, because it's never going to come to fruition. It's not a real thing. It's never going to happen, right? So it's just all pie in the sky. So coming up with the optimum scheme design that's going to win planning is really what it's all about. And then, of course, knowing how to get that planning through as quickly as possible. So those are really the key steps to development. And now as part of going through those early stages, there's a couple of things that you need to know and do and think about and understand. One of them, of course, is understanding all the various exit routes. Now, and that's going to be for you based on what it is that you're looking to do, your own, you know, business model or preferences, but also what's the landowner ideally looking to do? What are their timescales? What, you know, do they just want it out and they want to sell as quickly as possible, or do they want to hang in there for longer? So, you know, various exit routes. It could be build to sell, the typical developer's model. It could be build to rent or to hold to refinance and keep some or all of the development for yourself or for someone else. It could be a JV with the landowner. So there are various things that you might not do. You might be just into commercial development, so that's the only thing you're interested in, that you're looking for. You might be, you know, only interested in, you know, longer term stuff, strategic land promotion agreements, taking things through the development plan process. You might be interested in quicker stuff. Some people, you might just only want to build a few houses. Some people might want to do massive blocks of flats. Some people will be interested in doing whatever's right for the site, and they'll literally jump on whatever opportunity comes up. So point is, you know, there are various things you can do. You need to have your exit in mind before you even start, because that will influence what you do at the earlier stages, right? So you need to know and understand, have all of your exit routes in mind, and then you also need to know how to find, evaluate, and manage the best funding, the professionals, teams, contractors, and people that you need to work with in order to actually get your vision delivered. Yeah, so those are the sort of bits that come towards the end, but none of that can happen until you can find the right sites, ideally 100% off market with minimal competition, and then come up with the optimum design that's going to add maximum planning value to them, and then of course go away and win the planning permission that's going to generate that value. So anyway, so that's basically it. So that's really what needs to be done in development. So just to summarise, biggest challenges are finding the proper sites, minimising competition, and coming up with a scheme that's going to stack up and make it worth everyone's while. Understanding planning and design inside out is really the key. Now, in order to hopefully make this whole step-by-step system and framework easy for people to understand and remember, I spent a lot of time analysing every single deal that I've done over many years, every deal I've seen other people do, the good ones, the bad ones, all of them, what worked, what didn't work, reverse engineered it and turned it into a very detailed, specific step-by-step process. So other people, when I'm teaching it, when I'm training it, when I'm talking about it, know what it is that they need to know and the steps that they need to follow. Now, at high level, there are sort of like seven stages. Now, those 7 stages basically are designed to deal with those 7 key challenges that I've just talked about. Yeah. So number 1, finding the best sites. Number 2, quickly assessing the potential. Number 3, negotiating and structuring the right deals. Number 4, creating the optimum designs. Number 5, gaining the best planning consent. Number 6, finding the right teams. And number 7, choosing your preferred exits. It is a largely step-by-step straight line process. Some of it is a little bit iterative. So you get to one stage, you discover something, and you then have to go back a bit and do something else a little bit different. So it's not a straight line. But I've tried to make it as straight a line as possible. And for example, like step 7, choosing your preferred exits. Now, obviously, you don't go through the whole stage, tie up a site, get planning permission, and then decide on your exit at the end. I mean, you can do that, but ideally, you need to work out, you at least need to know what are your exits, all in terms of all of the options, in terms of what you could do, because then that will influence how you tee things up and tie things up at an earlier stage. Because one of the key things when it comes to getting deals done is finding out, as well as maximising land values, what is it that's going to suit the landowner? Because at the end of the day, if you can't get them agreed and get them on board, you're never going to get a deal done. And very often getting them on board is not just paying them top dollar. Yeah, very often that's a big part of it, but understanding exactly what they want and what they need is a big part of the whole process. So those are the steps, and the sort of like high level sort of acronym for those 7 steps is identify, navigate, secure, instruct, drive, engage, and realize. And if you're not looking at this on YouTube, you may not have worked out that actually spells insider. So that's partly to make people remember that, those are the steps. But also because this really is, like the insider knowledge and experience and stuff that you need to know, that you're not really going to know unless, you've worked it out and discovered it for yourself the hard way, like I did. But I've got to tell you, doing it that way is very, very slow and expensive. So why would you learn from your own long, slow, painful experience when you can learn from other people's? Which is exactly what I did effectively. I spent, getting on for 10 years, actually, doing it all the hard way back in the 80s before I eventually came to realise how much I didn't know. And then I went to work for, big house builders for 10 years because I realised just how much I didn't know and that I needed a lot more knowledge and experience. So anyway, that's what I did. I've now stuck that into a system, stuck that into a framework so that I can help other people learn this stuff and do this stuff. So anyway, so that's a high level overview. If you do want to go and have a quick look on YouTube, remember it's Inside Property Development. That's the name of the channel. Remember to like and subscribe. And you can see the sort of whole matrix on there. So underneath that high level seven steps, each of those steps has between 5 and 7 sub steps, right? So there's the whole little framework there in black and white that you can see and have a look at. It's got all of the steps. It's got the headlines for them, so you'll know what's what. So that's just a little real high level overview. I'm gonna wrap that up there, and then what I'm gonna do is another sort of separate episode where I'm gonna go into the various steps in a little bit more detail. Obviously, it's a lot of information. Basically, this is 5 days worth of training within those steps. So clearly, we're not going to spend 5 days on a podcast. But what I will do in another episode is explain what all of those steps are, and why they're important, so that you can start thinking about that stuff for yourself when you are looking at or for opportunities. Or, if you're just someone interested in helping getting more good housing and development created, or maybe you're a planner or someone else in the sector who, it would be helpful to understand how all of this stuff really works. Because, if we are going to get a whole load more good quality housing created, it's important that everyone involved in the process understands what the issues are and what needs to be done. So that's that. Hopefully that is a little bit of help. Hopefully, if you are listening rather than watching, I haven't waffled on too much, and that does make a little bit of sense. As I say, if you do want to go at some point and have a quick zoom in to the end of Inside Property Development, you will see this little chart, which I think is very useful for letting you know exactly what you need to do. Spent a long time, as I say, reverse engineering hundreds of deals done over 40 years now. So it really is everything you need to know, and it's effectively the insider secrets that the major house builders and the competition would probably rather you didn't know. I don't care anymore. I'm sort of semi-retiring, and I'm much more interested in making sure people know how to get deals done the right way, so we can get more good quality housing created. So that's it. Hopefully that's been of use, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for tuning in to Inside Property Development. Please remember to like and subscribe. Do join us every week, where we'll be speaking to house builders, developers, experts, planners, and everyone involved in trying to get more much needed housing created the right way. We'll learn together how we can collaborate rather than fight, and by working together we can all help create better places, spaces and homes, and a much more beautiful world.